Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Kumasi. We're on Love 99.5 FM and over 30 affiliates dotted across Ghana's 16 regions. We're on Amenuveve FM in Aflao, ATL FM in Cape Coast, Ganga FM in Jirapa. We're on Swiss FM in Ho, Jubilee FM in Keta, and KTU Radio in Koforidua. We're live on Twitter Spaces. We're on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol. Your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. This afternoon, despite coming under intense pressure from Parliament and civil society for its controversial stance on the use of Ghana card, the Electoral Commission is not backing down.
To say we backing down, unless there is, assuming the NIA stops its operations, then it means we cannot continue to rely.
And as we count down to the meeting of the Committee of the Whole, the NDC's warning of sanctions if the EC chair fails to turn up.
First of all, the assurance has been given that she would appear.
If she doesn't?
If she doesn't, then seriously speaking, we would escalate our actions to include the referral of the measure to the Privileges Committee to be dealt with for contempt.
Also this afternoon, despite restoration of peace and conflict ravaged Tripoli and Wenchike, residents are now confronted with hunger as authorities are helpless.
All their food stuff has been burnt. No cooking utensils. They have lost almost everything that they possess.
212 suspects arrested and currently standing trial for various forest and wildlife offences.
212 suspects were arrested by the Rapid Response Team of the Forestry Commission for various forest and wildlife offences.
We have the very latest from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister on measures taken to protect Ghana's forest and wildlife in sports.
President Akufo-Addo assures government will offer state-assisted burial for the late footballer Christian Achu.
A Nigerian ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu leads in the presidential election by the PDP and Labour parties are disputing the results, demanding total cancellation.
The electoral process has been rigged. INEC have rigged the 2023 elections and we are completely dissociating ourselves from it.
Meanwhile, the European Union, African Union and other observer missions have faulted the lack of transparency and operational failures in the Nigerian election, according to its preliminary findings.
Despite the much-needed reforms from the Electoral Act of 2022, the elections still fell well short of Nigerians' legitimate and reasonable expectations.
That's and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. This is your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. We are Joy News. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks for your company. Let's settle down now. And Deputy Chairman of the Commission in charge of Corporate Services, Dr. Bosman Asare, has described as baseless claims the chairperson of the EC showed total disrespect to Parliament when she failed to appear before the House last week. The NDC minority did not accept the accents of the EC boss during a meeting of the Committee of the Whole to consider the new constitutional instrument and described it as disrespectful to the House. The meeting has been rescheduled for today and the EC chair is expected to be present at this crucial meeting. Dr. Bosman Atare tells my colleague Raymond Nakwa the EC has no idea why they've been invited to the House.
We made it very clear if the chairperson had known about this particular invitation, definitely she would have honored the invitation.
But this is not the first time that she had not been in Parliament when she was expected to be in Parliament.
No, the last time we were invited by the whole of Parliament, what they call the Committee of the Whole, this was ahead of the 2020 elections, and the delegation was led by the chairperson. It was during this second one and the chairperson, and you know, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Ghana is also the president of the Association of African Election Authorities.
Okay.
So anytime there is election in any part of Africa, the organization plays a very significant role.
So she does not disrespect Parliament?
No, the chairperson can never do that.
So why do you feel some parliamentarians feel disrespected by her absence?
No, I don't think there is any basis for that. Because I don't think there is any basis. Because when you look at the Committee of the Whole, as I mentioned earlier, since I joined the Electoral Commission, I joined together with the chairperson. 2018, we've had 2 meetings with the Committee of the Whole. once Parliament invites us, and the chairperson, they will give us a date, and the chairperson will definitely be there.
Exactly what are you going to do in Parliament? We understand you have to appear with the NIA. Exactly what are you going to do in Parliament?
We haven't received any official notification that we are going to Parliament on Tuesday. We only heard it being mentioned in Parliament, but I know if we are going, we are still going to talk about our CI, the new CI on registration of voters.
What do you mean by that? We haven't received any official?
No,
it was on the floor of Parliament.
No, once they said on the
yes.
floor, the Parliament will confirm. They will confirm to us in writing, because that has been the standard practice.
Are you saying that you are not aware?
No, the commission, we have a process for receiving our letters. So I believe, for all you know, maybe they have even written to us. So after here, it's likely I will check with the office responsible.
So have you taken a decision whether the Electoral Commission, yourself, the chairperson, everybody involved is going to be in Parliament?
Yes. I know once, the last time we had a meeting, the speaker made it very clear that in our next appearance, the EC should be represented at the highest level.
But I want to know whether this next appearance is tomorrow.
That's why I said we need to confirm.
Well, I'll take you to Parliament shortly on this particular meeting, and our sources tells us that meeting is supposed to deliberate on the proposed constitutional instrument to empower the EC to accept only the Ghana card as a sole means of identification for registration onto the voters' card. Dr. Bosman Asare says the Ghana card remains the only viable option for the exercise.
So far, there is no evidence to suggest that we are not going to continue with what we are doing. But to say we backing down, unless there is what the lawyers call, they have a term they use. Assuming the NIA stops its operations,
okay,
then it means we cannot continue to rely on what the force majeure.
Yes.
If there is something like NIA has stopped its operations, government has decided that NIA is no longer necessary. But as long as the NIA is functioning, and they are issuing the cards, and they've opened their doors that people should come and register, we must just encourage, and I believe those of you in the media should be encouraging people. If you want to register as a voter, you need to, because that's the best practice in every part of the world. I don't know if you know of any country where, let's say in Burkina Faso, in Togo, in Britain, where two British nationalities must vouch for somebody. No, it doesn't happen. This has been unique to Ghana, and we think that we began this in 1992. Because we've come very far. We've made progress.
Up to now, we've not gotten a single unified ID that's easy to get, and that's why we find alternatives. Because the right to vote is a fundamental right.
And that one, the Commission considers so fundamental, is so sacrosanct that all of us must ensure that it is protected for every Ghanaian.
Do you then concede that by doing this, reducing it to only the Ghana card, you are limiting the options available to people?
No, we are not limiting. What we are saying is that just take steps. Okay.
NASA, the Deputy Chair of the Electoral Commission in charge of corporate services, Dr. Bosman Asare, can catch the full interview with Raymond Akon upfront on the Joy News channel at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. But the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement, CDD Ghana, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, is urging the EC to consider other means of identification.
Even though it's a good idea, maybe the timing is not particularly good. The conditions are not fertile for us to implement that fully. So our proposal is that on the issue of the NIA card, yes, you can still make it a primary source for identification, but you definitely have to allow for a guarantee system. CI 126 actually amended CI 91 of 2016 to allow for a guarantee system, and which is fine, because even with the NIA process, I think 40% of the NIA Ghana card holders all came through the guarantee system. So I think if it's fine for the NIA process, it should be okay.
So what happens if the EC chairperson fails to show up today? Ranking member on the Interior and Defence Committee of Parliament, James Agalga, says the chairperson could be cited for contempt.
And we are saying that Emefa has been very consistent in not turning up or responding to invitations by the House. She is the person who bears ultimate responsibility. And so we require her personal attendance before the House so that whatever assurances are given would come from her own mouth, so that in the future, if a U-turn is made and there is trouble in this country, everybody would know who plunged this country into chaos. But you see, you cannot treat Parliament like that. Parliament represents, if you like, the soul of our democratic experiment, the people's representatives. Okay, Jean Mensa is a servant of the people, and so where the people's representatives say appear, and let's discuss very serious, germane issues which have the potential to derail our democratic gains, and she doesn't turn up. We are more than justified to raise questions and refuse to give them a hearing.
Right, but James, that fear is there again. The fact that our sources are indicating to us that there were sights of the EC boss in Nigeria, and if Jean Mensa doesn't show up on the floor of the House, is it going to be the same issue, the same case of the minority saying, we'll seek answers?
I have indicated to you that her continuous absence or failure to respond to invitations by the House is contemptuous.
Yes, but
that's the ranking member on the Interior and Defence Committee of Parliament, James Agalga, there speaking to my colleague Blessed Soga. Will Jean Mensa appear before Parliament? Correspondent Kweku Asante is the only one who has answers this afternoon. Kweku, tell us, do we have Jean Mensa in Parliament?
Our understanding is that Madam Jean Mensa will not be in Parliament today. Indeed, if you look at the other paper, this meeting has now been moved to Thursday, at 12 noon. The other indication is that the meeting should also happen today. But so far, our understanding is that Madam Jean Mensa is not in Parliament. MPs say that they would wait for some time. There are those who believe that the meeting should happen today. There are those who say that the meeting should go to Thursday. Leadership will have some agreement on that and announce that shortly. But so far, Madam Jean Mensa is not in Parliament as we speak.
So what reasons really have been given for the reason why the meeting has been moved from Tuesday to Thursday, and the reaction so far to this?
The main understanding is that Madam Jean Mensa has been undertaking some official duties in Nigeria. There are those who say that Parliament is such a big institution, and if this matter of national interest is being discussed, then Nigerian elections should be secondary. And so there are actually those who are waiting in Parliament today that Madam Jean Mensa should appear, while there are those on the majority side especially who say that to be able to accommodate the EC chairperson, the meeting should be moved to Thursday. We understand leadership will confer and make a decision, but there are those in the minority side especially who say that Madam Jean Mensa should appear today, and if she does not, then Parliament should take some tough stance against her.
Well, Jean Mensa's appearance is not the only pressing issue in Parliament today. The Health Minister was also to brief the House on non-availability of vaccines. What do we have on that?
There's another no-show in Parliament. The Minister for Health, Kweku Asante, was expected to be here at 9 a.m. As of 12, 3 hours that committee has been sitting. The Minister is not here. The committee has just issued a warning and a letter to the Ministry that he must appear before them in 2 hours, or they will take some actions against them. Muntaka Mubarak, who is a member of the committee, says the Minister's conduct is disrespectful.
We'll invite a minister within 24 hours and he has to appear because of his urgency. Now you have a Minister of Health who, for me, for lack of better word, will say disrespectfully refused to attend to the invitation of the committee. It tells you how he's running the ministry, and it's just too unfortunate that we have a government that a lot of its actors are behaving as though they are doing the citizens a favor.
Well, that's Mutaka Mubarak, a member of the Health Committee of Parliament. Let me take you to the Northeast region now, where residents of conflict-ravaged Shreponi and Wenchike are in dire need of food supplies. Authorities fear there could be a full-blown hunger crisis if urgent help is not provided. 27 houses were burnt last week during a chieftaincy conflict. Well, DCE for Shreponi, Zuera Moda Nashiru, says 10 persons are currently in police custody.
They were picked up as a result of what we went through in Wancheke, and it's all because they were found around as suspects of people who were, making phone calls and directing as to how people should come out and shoot each other. So it was based on that security arrested them.
We can hear from the Northeast Regional Minister Yidana Zakari detailing challenges facing the community.
The security have been able to restore calm, and we just hope that we'll be able to sustain that going forward as we take appropriate steps to address the issues that are at core to what has happened. The houses have been razed down, foodstuffs bent, livelihoods lost. The people are displaced. Their water source more of a threat to them because they don't feel safe going to fetch water from that end. And even what to use in fetching, the containers even to fetch the water, well, all what was in their home got bent.
Well, that's the Northeast Regional Minister, Idan Zakari. Thankfully, the Regional NADMO Director, John Kweku Alhassan, joins us on the line with details. We're grateful for your time here on the Midday News, sir. So what's really the challenge or the difficulty there in providing food supplies and other supplies to these members of these communities?
Well, when there's a conflict of this nature, first of all, what we need to do is to go into the conflict to do some proper assessment, to determine the number of items that are destroyed in terms of maybe they are including the buildings and what have you. And so yesterday, the Northeast Regional Minister led a powerful team to the conflict. And then we learned for ourselves the number of houses that were actually destroyed, the number of stores, the motorbikes, tricycles, shades, and then the people who have been displaced. And so we have taken the report and we have forwarded them to Accra. And we are hoping that very soon something good will come from Accra and we'll go to support those victims.
This doesn't sound encouraging at all. You've done assessment, so now we are just waiting on Accra. What is Accra saying?
We don't have relief items here. Accra will have to give us relief items to be able to give to the victims. They don't know what the people actually need. How would they be able to support? So we are working hard to make sure that these victims are being supported.
So in the interim, these residents were told are sleeping rough. What happens?
Yesterday, we were able to organize some used clothing, some plastic buckets, blankets, some other items for these victims.
Okay. Well,
and the State Police District Assembly is also doing good in that direction.
We're grateful. That's John Kweku Alhassan. He's a regional NADMO director. Now, 202, that's the number of people arrested and standing trial for various forest and wildlife offences. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo, I beg your pardon, at the Minister's press briefing today said they were picked up by the rapid response team of the Forestry Commission as part of efforts to secure the environment. The integrity of Ghana's forest reserves has been up for discussion following revelations of massive destruction by illegal and small-scale miners in the country.
Cordon of all forest reserves and wildlife protected areas to rid them of illegal mining and illegal logging. Last year, 212 suspects were arrested by the rapid response team of the Forestry Commission for various forest and wildlife offences. These suspects are standing trial at various courts across the country. The team also seized and or decommissioned scores of equipment and forest products, including 44,522 assorted lumber, 54 vehicles, and 17 excavators. While protecting the forest, we continued with our aggressive afforestation and reforestation program, including our flagship Green Ghana project.
That's the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Samuel Abu Jinapo, there at that press conference earlier today, which is still underway. They've been talking about preparations and, for whether Ghana is prepared for a situation when it comes to an earthquake. We'll bring you more on that is on myjoyonline.com. Well, you're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Let's take some other stories now. And across Ghana, police spokespersons and commands would hardly grant media interviews from regional to district and divisional command. No one can speak to the press. This is because communication from every corner of the country has been centralized in Accra. There's worry that the national unit hardly gives information, and if it will, it gives it very late. This information deficit is not only affecting information flow to the public, it's also giving rise to undue speculation about many happenings in the country. Joy News editor Fifi Kumson examines how the situation is affecting information flow to the public.
The media has a big responsibility to, among others, educate and inform. But the new police media blackout in the regions and districts of the country, following the assumption of office of IGP George Akufo-Addo Dampare, threatens this mandate.
This has a very serious potential on giving room for speculations and misinformation.
Whenever a story breaks anywhere in the country, the police in those jurisdictions would direct journalists to the Central Police Communication Center here in Accra for comment. And on many occasions, when the journalists do, they get no answers. Almost every one of these newsmen and women has a story about how this decision by the police is affecting their work in the relay of information to Ghanaians.
Recently, there was a criminal case in one of our neighboring towns, Okrasi, and my outfit tried to authenticate and get facts and some clarification from our regional police command. Sadly enough, we were told to contact the national headquarters.
But how can one central communication center handle requests from 16 regions and 216 districts, municipalities, and metropolitan assemblies? Why would the police shut its commanders in the region's app, the people who have first-hand information, and rather rely on communication officers who only have secondary data?
Whether he thinks that his public relations officers in the regions or the district commanders or the divisional commanders are not competent enough to handle communication. Even if that is the case, I think that there should be a systematic approach to train them in handling PR at the local level.
Following the recent outbreak of violence in Boko, for example, police in the Upper East region could not speak, and it was difficult getting information from Accra.
I cannot be here in Bolga, in the Upper East region, when something is happening, and then I need to go to Accra, nearly 900 kilometers away, in order to be able to get information to bring to the general public.
GGA President Albert Kwabena Jomfo in September last year called for a change. According to Mr. Jomfo,
depriving the media information in real time is a matter of serious concern to the association. Starving the media of information in a decentralized system using centralization tactics is impeding the work of the media as far as information dissemination is concerned.
Perhaps the police can take a leaf out of the books of their counterparts in some of the most advanced democracies, where local police and sheriffs in counties constantly update the public on developing stories.
There were multiple rounds fired at the first location where we have...
The plan was a murder-suicide, so she killed him and then she was going to turn the gun on herself.
The IGP should look at it again and look at areas where he has to relax it. He does that to pave way for us to be able to have credible dissemination of information.
People who don't have the patience to wait until they can get information from the police may just report information that is not accurate.
The police media blackout in the regions and districts of the country is counter-democracy. It's time the IGP took another look at this directive that's increasingly robbing the public of critical information in a timely manner.
And we are still yet to get any reaction from the police public affairs. This is the Midday News brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol, always a delightful experience. Also by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. When we return, we have sport, and then I'll take you to Nigeria, where the ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu has stretched the lead in the presidential election, but the PDP and Labour parties are disputing the results, demanding total cancellation.
The electoral process have been rigged. INEC have rigged the 2023 elections, and we are completely dissociating ourselves from it.
And in showbiz, the untold story behind one of Ghana's most controversial rap songs.
I wrote for Exto. This is why Reggie Rockstar would never like me.
The entire song?
The entire song. Hey, Baba. Oh, Baba.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn. You know both. You know chop. Where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Hajia, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia. That water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selegion. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe. So say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! That's my boss, Mr. Poncho go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for staying with us. Let's do sports.
Yes, Emefa. Now, President Akufo-Addo says late footballer Christian Achu, who died in the Turkey earthquake, would be given a state-assisted burial. Now, Achu was confirmed to have passed away on February 18 following the devastating earthquake, which claimed the lives of more than 50,000 people. The family of the late Black Stars player, led by GFA boss Keto Kreku, officially informed the government of Achu's demise on Monday. President Akufo-Addo commiserated with the family and added the government would help give the footballer a dignified exit.
I always console myself with the thought that at the end of the day, no matter the circumstances, the Almighty will call each one of us one by one. And perhaps that was his destiny, that he be called in this tragic way. Senatu, depending on the date, the members of the family and the GFA will select. And that everything will be done from the point of view of government, to make sure that he's given a dignified exit.
That's your spot.
Thank you very much, Mubarak. Now, out of the mini plastic waste generated in Ghana, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology says only 10% is recycled. The remaining waste end up in the sea as debris, threatening not only marine lives, but also human livelihood of coastal dwellers in Ghana. We have a latest edition of our Hotline documentary, A Sea of Plastics. Here are excerpts of it.
It's really a challenge. In terms of the total plastics waste that is generated, Ghana does about 0.84 million metric tons annually. 10%, only 10% is recycled.
Lydia Esia is a director for policy planning, monitoring and evaluation at the Ministry of Science, Environment and Technology. Lydia is worried about the environmental impact of the garbage that is dumped in the ocean.
An average person ingests into your system approximately 5 grams of plastics weekly. And to bring it home, the 5 grams of plastics can be likened to a credit card, the size of a credit card. On the average every week, that's the quantity of plastics that we inject into our system. Because obviously the plastics have penetrated through our food chain.
The devastation that plastics are causing the fishing industry is far-reaching. Researchers have recently found alarming levels of plastics in the bellies of fishes, not in the ocean alone, but in Ghanaian lagoons too. Civil society organizations have been at the forefront of campaigns aimed at ridding the ocean of plastics and other garbage. One such organization is the Green Africa Youth Organization.
You just look at it from a fish ingesting pieces of microplastics, and then you, a fisherman, even assuming that they are able to harvest these fish and then bring it to shore.
The full documentary is on the Joy News channel, also on myjoyonline.com. And Nigeria's ruling candidate, Bola Tinubu has stretched the lead in the presidential election after results were released in 14 out of the country's 36 states. Mr. Tinubu has won just over 44% of the tallied votes. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, has also almost 33% of the vote. Labour Party's Peter Obi has close to 18%. Earlier, the opposition parties raised concerns about the lack of transparency with the new electoral voting system.
We are about 9-10 of us here, understand? And we are saying that INEC is compromised, APC have influenced INEC, and we can see results are being changed. What is difficult in the INEC chairman showing the uploaded results so that we can compare and interrogate that.
But the chairman of the Nigerian Independent Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has called on the aggrieved political parties to submit their petitions for redress,
so that we can speak on the basis of facts. I want to assure political parties that any evidence that you have of any alleged wrongdoing at any level of the process, whether it's at the polling unit or at collation level, please forward this information. And I promise you, as soon as the process is concluded, we'll then do the review as provided by law.
Meanwhile, the European Union, African Union, ECOWAS and the Commonwealth Observer missions have faulted the lack of transparency and operational failures in the Nigerian election. That's according to their preliminary findings. And just before we go, a showbiz rapper and music producer, Chami Kofi, has shared interesting details of how he wrote Exdo's hit song, Maba. The song questioned Reggie Rockstone's claim to the throne of rap in Ghana. Listen to him speak to Joy Entertainment's Kwame Dadzi.
I wrote for Exdo. This is why Reggie Rockstone would never like me.
The entire song?
The entire song. Hey, Maba. Oh, Maba. Exdo came to me in Kumasi. He actually moved from Accra, came to Kumasi. He had a beat from Nana King and he was looking for what to say with it. The idea came because, people were living in Accra, we were living in Kumasi, we were the kingpins of the Kumasi rap, and an Accra person was claiming precedence. The beef is starting over today. So it was to say, my friend, from whom president? Also, I want to a resident.
And that's how we wrap up today's edition of the Midday News. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Bond market activity rebounds. Turnover increases by 4.53%. You can get live updates also of the Nigerian election results. Coalition in Rivers suspended over death threats. I am Emefa Apawu. Living Word with Pastor Mensah Otabil is up next.